The Skyrim modding community never ceases to amaze me with what they're able to add to the game, even now almost 12 years after the game's release. Today we're taking a look at an incredibly useful and fun mod that adds a dedicated photo mode to Skyrim, with all the bells and whistles that you would expect to find from more modern games launching with their own dedicated photo mode. This is, well, Photo Mode by Powerofthree. This is something I've wanted in Skyrim for ages, largely because it provides a lot of functionality for me, for both video and screenshot purposes. It's a really well thought out and well implemented mod, allowing you to do a lot of the more basic things that you would expect from a photo mode. Adding grids to show proper thirds in your composition of the shot, change the FOV, time of day, and weather, being able to hide and show your character, as well as an incredibly long list of stances, actions, and animations that you can choose from to apply to your player character. Once installed along with all of its requisite mods, you can access photo mode from the pause menu, or you can even have it configured to a specific hotkey via the mod configuration menu. Photos will be saved in the same location as regular screenshots, which for most people will be Skyrim's root directory folder. Photos that you take in-game through this mode can show up in your loading screens as either full-screen images or as small 3D paintings, complete with a frame and an oil paint filter over them. The photo mode menu breaks down into 5 different tabs: camera, time, player, filters, and overlays. The camera tab consists of the composition grid overlays for thirds, diagonals, and triangles, along with giving you the ability to change your field of view, camera roll tilt, and configure the strength of your depth of field, or even toggle your ENB's depth of field off and on. You'll only see the more detailed depth of field options if you have your ENB disabled, or if you don't have any ENB at all. The time tab allows us to freeze, speed up, or even slow down time. From here, we can also change the time of day, time scale, and select weather settings. In a previous version of the mod, I found that my weather and time would revert to their original state prior to opening photo mode. But in the most recent version, it seemed that the time and weather set in photo mode persisted even upon exiting. So I'm not entirely sure if this is a new bug or maybe it's an intended feature. It's worth noting that if you want to make use of a lot of the features in the player tab, you don't want to have time frozen, as a lot of the effects and animations won't play out properly if the time is paused. The player tab is the one where you can really lose yourself by scrolling through all the different options, and trying to find the perfect expression and stance for your character. From here you can set facial expression and the intensity of said emotion, and more fine-tune this by changing things like eyebrow movement, direction in which your eyes are looking, and more. You can select from the entire library of NPC idols and animations, although some might look a little wonky if they would normally require you to interact with other objects. So depending on what you use, you might wind up with a floating character if you choose for them to be sitting in a carriage, for instance. The idols and animation menu is great because it lets you choose between the different ESMs and mods that you have installed. So you can have a mod that adds a bunch of new animations and then toggle to show only that library, or to only show animations from the vanilla game. If you want to apply different shaders to your character, this is achievable through the player tab as well. This includes various effects, such as the enchanted armor glow, fire, frost, sparks, and much more. It's a really long list, and going through all of it will take quite a while. From here, you can also make adjustments to your character's placement, including rotation and position. Like I said, to make the best use of a lot of these features, you won't want time frozen. However, you can go back to the time tab and freeze time once you have the animation and player expression that you like. Under the Filters tab, you'll be able to make a lot of the tweaks that you would normally need an image editor for, adjusting brightness, saturation, contrast, or even adding a color tint to the image. Much like the more detailed depth of field options, these will really only take effect if your ENB is toggled off. This is due to how ENBs hijack the game's color settings, brightness, saturation, and so on. But for screenshots and such, I think you can have a lot more control over these lighting options with the ENB off, and making adjustments through the Filters tab alone. And finally, the Overlays tab. By default, this only comes with the ability to add a vignette effect, but the mod has a framework to allow for you to add your own frames, logos, and more. These overlays are listed in full screen resolutions, such as 1920 by 1080 and 3840 by 2160. You can place any overlays or logos you want to add as PNG files in data/interface/photo mode/overlays. Regardless of what size you upload the overlays at, the game will automatically scale them down to your screen's native resolution for ease of access. The mod page also gives these instructions as well as the specific folder structure that you need to follow in order for this to work. I would love to see other authors release their own mods or asset packs to add different borders, logos, and so on. I think there's a lot of ways in which the community can really add on to this mod. And that's one of the things that I really love about photo mode. There's a lot of little things you can add to make it a more customized experience. You can change the mod's font, add your own logos, overlays, effects, and borders. The mod's functionality was heavily inspired by the Fallout 4 photo mode mod, which released a couple years ago, the format and layout of which is very similar to that of Fallout 76's. For me, as a YouTuber, this mod is the closest thing we have to a full suite of machinima-style tools, and it's something I've wanted to have in Skyrim for ages now. The ability to quickly change timescale, lighting, weather, and use that to get the scenes you want, get different cinematic shots and thumbnails, and all without having to remember weather codes and timescale commands. It's a really great quality of life addition. I think a lot of other creators out there are going to be able to use photo mode to create better videos, thumbnails, and more. The mod is available only on PC for Skyrim Special Edition, with options to support either Anniversary Edition or the older 1.5.97 versions of the game. There are a handful of requirements, including SKSC, address library for SKSC plugins, MCM helper, and powerofthree tweaks. And while not required, it is recommended to use auto input switch, as this will make using gamepads much easier, and I highly recommend using it. For this video, I tested photo mode on my Anniversary Edition install, and given that the mod is so new, I figure we might see some more patches and bug fixes in the coming weeks. I will likely go ahead and get this installed and set up for my Special Edition install as well, which I currently use for most of the Skyrim Saturday series, as well as the long-running modded playthrough, just to hopefully make my life a little easier in grabbing cinematic scenes, thumbnails, and more. Given that Starfield launches this fall with its own dedicated photo mode in the vanilla game, it'll be really interesting to see how it stacks up against this modded version. One of my favorite things about the Skyrim mod is that you can have the game run live in the background, which allows you to get really fun time lapses, which I realize you can also do just through console commands, but I like having a dedicated menu for it. So far I've only encountered a couple different bugs. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I wasn't able to replicate them while recording for this video. I ran into one problem where my character was stuck in place after exiting photo mode. They would still perform the walk or run animations when I tried to move, but they wouldn't actually move at all. Using console commands, I wasn't able to fix this, but reloading a previous save did. I did run into one or two instances where I got a crashed desktop after exiting photo mode, but it was a rare occurrence and it didn't seem to be triggered by anything specific. The mod has already been updated several times to address different bugs and glitches as the community finds and reports them. So if you're using the photo mode mod, I recommend making sure you're using the most up-to-date version, and reporting any bugs that you have on the mod page. To me, this is as lightweight of a mod as it can possibly be, and I really commend powerofthree for making it available to both Special Edition and Anniversary Edition, which likely meant some extra work on their part to make sure it was compatible with the older and newer versions of Address Library. The author has also made the source code readily available, something that we don't often see in the modding community, but I think it goes to help other modders see how these things were achieved, and hopefully give something to build off from for their own projects as well. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see others like it, might I recommend joining my Patreon, which helps to support me as a full-time creator. And check out the streams at twitch.tv/0periodproductions, where I typically stream 4 times a week. I'll see you guys next time with more Skyrim, and starting in September, you can expect to see a lot of Starfield here on the channel as well. Bye bye.